Struggling single dad saves billionaire woman from heart attack. But her first call shocked everyone. The blazing noon sun beat down relentlessly. A woman in high-end designer clothes suddenly collapsed on the sidewalk, clutching her chest, struggling to breathe. The people around her stood frozen, unsure of what to do. Only one man, unbothered by the crowd, rushed to her side. He wore an old work jacket, his hands smeared with oil and grease. Without a second thought, he dropped his lunch bag, knelt and started performing CPR. 30 seconds passed, though it felt like an eternity. Then she gasped for air. As police and paramedics arrived, the woman regained consciousness an hour later. Groggy but aware, she looked around and said, "Call my lawyer now." Do you believe that a single moment can completely change the course of someone's life? If you do, like and comment. I've seen it happen before. Noah Reed was 40, a single father who worked as a mechanic while raising his 11-year-old daughter, Emma, in a modest apartment on the east side of town. Every morning he packed 2 lunches, one for himself and one for Emma, using whatever was left in the fridge to make sure she had healthy meals at school. His routine was simple but strict, built around his daughter's needs and the fact that there was no room for mistakes financially. He dropped Emma off at school by 7:30, worked at Martinez Auto Repair until 3, picked her up, helped with her homework, and spent his evenings either working on side projects or reviewing school assignments with her. Not many knew that Noah had once been a pre-med student at the local university, with excellent grades and a true passion for medicine. But when his wife Sarah unexpectedly passed away during a routine surgery, Noah's world came crashing down. Left to care for their 2-year-old daughter, he had no choice but to quit school, take a steady job, and focus on providing rather than chasing old dreams. That particular Tuesday in late August, Noah was making a parts delivery for the shop when he noticed a commotion in the downtown business district. A crowd had gathered around something on the sidewalk. People were pointing their phones and snapping pictures, but nobody seemed to be helping. Noah approached and could see that someone needed immediate attention. As Noah got closer, he saw a woman in an expensive business suit sprawled on the concrete, clearly struggling with a medical emergency. She was clutching her chest, her breathing ragged and uneven. Her skin had taken on a grayish hue, a sign of a severe cardiovascular issue that Noah recognized from his brief time in medical school. The crowd of onlookers had kept their distance, unsure of whether their intervention would help or make things worse. Some people were filming, others were dialing emergency numbers, but no one was offering direct assistance to the woman in distress. Noah's response was instinctive, drawing from the medical knowledge he'd gained during his year in medical school and his CPR certification, which he had kept up for his work as a mechanic. He dropped his lunch bag, dropped to his knees, and assessed the woman's condition quickly, following the method he'd been taught for handling cardiac emergencies. Her pulse was weak and erratic, her breath shallow. It was clear she was close to cardiac arrest. Without hesitation, Noah placed his hands on her sternum and began chest compressions, counting out loud to keep himself on track, as he pressed firmly to pump blood to her vital organs. 20 compressions, 30 compressions. Slowly, her color began to improve. After what seemed like an eternity but was likely less than 2 minutes, the woman coughed, spat out some blood, and began to breathe more normally. Noah continued to monitor her pulse and breathing until the paramedics arrived and took over. The entire scene had been captured by numerous people, many of whom had recorded his life-saving actions on their phones. As the ambulance drove off, several bystanders approached Noah to thank him or ask about his medical background, but he brushed off their attention and simply returned to his delivery route, acting as though nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. What Noah didn't know was that the woman he had just saved was Victoria Langston, one of the wealthiest and most influential business figures in the state. Victoria had amassed her fortune through sharp investments and corporate acquisitions, her wealth measured in billions, not millions. More importantly for Noah's future, Victoria was a person who never forgot acts of genuine kindness, and she had the resources to show her gratitude in life-altering ways. If you've ever saved someone without expecting anything in return, comment, "I just did what was right." Victoria Langston regained consciousness in the cardiac intensive care unit at St. Mary's Hospital, surrounded by high-tech monitoring equipment that had stabilized her after what doctors confirmed was a severe heart attack. The first thing she asked wasn't about her pain or her prognosis, but about the person who had saved her life. "Who was the man who helped me?" she asked Dr. Martinez, the cardiologist in charge of her care. "I need to know his name and how to reach him." Dr. Martinez reviewed his chart, consulting the information provided by paramedics who had spoken to witnesses. "His name is Noah Reed, ma'am," he replied. "The paramedics said he performed CPR until they arrived. His quick thinking and proper technique likely saved your life. Without his immediate chest compressions, you probably wouldn't have made it." Victoria took this in with the same sharp focus she used when making critical business decisions involving millions of dollars and hundreds of employees. But instead of asking about her treatment or calling family members, her first request was for her lawyer. "Please call James Morrison at Morrison & Associates," she told the nurse monitoring her. "Tell him I need to speak with him immediately about updating my will. This is urgent and can't wait until I'm discharged." The request surprised the medical staff, who were accustomed to patients using their recovery time to reconnect with loved ones or focus on their health rather than legal matters. But Victoria's tone was firm, carrying the weight of someone used to having her instructions followed without question, no matter how unusual they might seem. Meanwhile, Noah had returned to his apartment, helped Emma with her homework, and prepared a simple dinner, not mentioning the dramatic events of the day. He was still processing the intensity of performing CPR on a stranger. The weight of responsibility he had felt when someone's life depended on his actions lingered in his mind. Emma, noticing her father's quieter mood at dinner, spoke up. "Dad, did something happen at work today?" she asked, sensing the shift in his demeanor, something children often pick up on when their parents are carrying unspoken emotions. Noah hesitated, trying to keep the conversation light. "I helped someone who was sick," he said, not wanting to worry Emma with details of life-threatening emergencies. "It reminded me of things I learned in school a long time ago before you were born." Emma nodded seriously, and then asked the question that struck at the heart of Noah's unspoken regrets. "Do you ever miss being a doctor, Dad?" Noah stopped clearing the table, caught off guard by the question. His daughter had intuited something he'd been avoiding for years. "I wasn't really a doctor, sweetheart," he replied, his voice soft. "I just studied for a while. But yeah, sometimes I wonder what would have happened if things had gone differently." That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Noah found himself browsing online about cardiac arrest and CPR techniques, comparing what he remembered from his medical training with the latest practices. He discovered he had performed the emergency response correctly, and that his quick actions had been essential in keeping Victoria alive until professional help arrived. This realization stirred something in Noah that had been buried under years of financial strain and the demands of raising Emma alone. For the first time in nearly a decade, he started thinking about medicine not as a dream he'd left behind, but as knowledge and skills he still possessed, skills that could make a real impact on people's lives. That same evening, Victoria worked with her attorney to make adjustments to her estate plan, reflecting her newfound understanding of what truly mattered in human character. James Morrison, who had handled Victoria's legal matters for over 15 years, was used to his wealthy clients making impulsive decisions after major life events. But Victoria's instructions were thoughtful, precise, and clearly driven by sincere gratitude rather than rash emotions. "I want to create a special provision in my will for Noah Reed," Victoria told her lawyer during their phone consultation. "Not a cash payment, but something that addresses what I suspect are his real needs and dreams. I'll give you more details once I've had a chance to meet him and understand his situation better." James Morrison had been the attorney for Victoria Langston, one of the wealthiest individuals in the country, managing everything from corporate mergers to complex estate planning. But Victoria's request to revise her will, based solely on the act of a stranger, was something he had never encountered before in his career. "I need you to locate Noah Reed and arrange for him to visit my home this week," Victoria instructed during a follow-up conversation after her release from the hospital. "Also, please research scholarship programs and educational opportunities that might suit his background and current situation. Within 24 hours, Victoria's private investigator had compiled a full profile on Noah. He was a single father, a former pre-med student, now working as a mechanic and living paycheck to paycheck while raising a daughter who was consistently on the honor roll at her public school. The report painted a picture of someone who had sacrificed his own aspirations to provide a stable life for his child, exactly the kind of person Victoria had learned to value the most. The invitation to visit Victoria's estate came in the form of a handwritten note delivered by a professional courier, requesting Noah's presence on Saturday afternoon to discuss a matter of mutual interest. The formal tone of the invitation, paired with the elegant stationery bearing the Langston Industries return address, made Noah realize that the woman he'd saved was far wealthier and more influential than he had ever imagined. Noah arrived at the Langston estate feeling completely out of place, surrounded by pristine gardens, marble fountains and architecture that probably cost more than he would earn in several lifetimes. The house itself was a masterpiece of contemporary design, with floor-to-ceiling windows, imported hardwood floors and artwork that Noah recognized from museum catalogues. Victoria chose to greet Noah personally rather than having staff handle the introduction. Wanting their conversation to feel more like a meeting between equals than a formal business transaction, she led him to a comfortable study lined with books and overlooking gardens that offered privacy for serious discussion. "You're the first person who ever saved my life without needing to know who I was or what I could do for you in return," Victoria said, settling into a leather chair across from Noah. "I've been thinking about that all week, trying to understand what kind of person acts purely on instinct to help a stranger." Noah felt uncomfortable with the praise and the lavish surroundings, sensing that Victoria was about to make an offer or propose something that would complicate his already structured life. "I just did what anyone with basic medical training would do in that situation," he replied. "If it had been anyone else lying there, I would have helped them too." Victoria nodded, recognizing the sincerity in Noah's words. "That's exactly what makes you different," she said. "Most people would have helped because they recognized me, or because they were hoping for some kind of reward. You helped because someone needed help. That's rare, especially in my world." Their conversation continued for almost 2 hours, during which Victoria learned about Emma's academic achievements, Noah's financial struggles, and his abandoned dreams of becoming a doctor. In turn, Noah learned about Victoria's business empire, her philanthropic endeavors, and her genuine regret about not having children or close family relationships that could have provided more meaning beyond her professional success. When Victoria finally presented her proposal, it was carefully crafted to address Noah's real needs. Instead of offering the typical financial reward often given by wealthy people to express gratitude, she offered something far more meaningful: the chance to return to medical school through a private scholarship program. This scholarship would cover tuition, living expenses, and even childcare support for Emma. "I don't want to change your life against your will," Victoria explained, "but I do want to remove the financial barriers that kept you from becoming the doctor you originally planned to be. If you're interested in completing your medical education, I can make that possible without requiring you to compromise Emma's stability or your role as her father." Noah was speechless, fully realizing that Victoria was offering him something far beyond money: the opportunity to reclaim a career path that had been interrupted by tragedy and financial necessity. The scholarship would allow him to pursue his original dream while still being there for Emma as she grew up. "You don't need to stand out to be seen," Victoria added. "Subscribe to Solo Dad Diaries if you believe that kindness can change the world." Victoria's scholarship offer came with conditions that demonstrated her understanding of Noah's priorities and values, rather than trying to control his decisions or demanding gratitude for her generosity. The program would let Noah attend medical school part-time while keeping his current job, ensuring Emma's routine and financial security wouldn't be disrupted as he transitioned back to academics. When Emma learned about her father's opportunity, her reaction was a mix of excitement and pride that took Noah by surprise with its emotional depth. "Dad, you always wanted to be a doctor?" she asked, her eyes shining with the kind of wonder children feel when they discover their parents had dreams beyond their everyday lives. "I did, sweetheart," Noah admitted, realizing that he had never fully explained to Emma why he had changed his career path after her mother's death. "I had to stop studying when your mom got sick," Noah explained gently. "And then after she passed away, I had to focus on taking care of you, but I never stopped thinking about it." Emma hugged him fiercely, as if congratulating him for something he'd already achieved, rather than something he was only considering. "I think you'll be the best doctor ever," she said, with the kind of absolute confidence only children have when it comes to their parents' potential. Noah began the accelerated pre-med refresher program that Victoria had arranged for him, attending evening classes after work and weekend study sessions that slowly rebuilt his knowledge in chemistry, biology, and anatomy. The transition was tough, juggling his current responsibilities with intense academic work, but it also rekindled an intellectual excitement Noah had forgotten was even possible. Victoria took a personal interest in Noah's progress. She wasn't just a benefactor keeping tabs on her investment, she genuinely found satisfaction in watching him pursue meaningful goals. She even attended Noah's first practice presentation for his medical school application interview, offering feedback and encouragement that helped him articulate why he was returning to medicine after such a long break. 6 months into the program, Victoria held a press conference to announce a new initiative in medical education funding, using Noah's story as an example of the kind of students her foundation wanted to support. "I'm not interested in charity or traditional philanthropy," she told reporters. "I'm interested in correcting missed opportunities and supporting those who were prevented from contributing to society by circumstances beyond their control." The coverage from the press conference brought Noah unwanted attention, but it served Victoria's larger goal of raising awareness about how financial barriers kept talented individuals from entering fields like medicine, where their skills could help entire communities. Emma watched the coverage with pride and curiosity, asking her father questions about Victoria that showed her growing understanding of how their lives had changed since that day on the sidewalk. "Is Victoria like our family now?" Emma asked, displaying the way children often think of relationships in terms of emotional bonds rather than formal titles. "She's someone who cares about what happens to us," Noah replied, recognizing that Victoria had indeed become like family through her investment in their future and her genuine interest in their everyday lives. "She's someone who believes in second chances and helping people become who they're meant to be." Victoria's own perspective on her relationship with Noah and Emma had been shifting in ways she hadn't expected. For decades, she had been focused on business achievements and financial success. But watching Noah chase his dreams while still remaining committed to Emma gave her insight into forms of wealth that couldn't be measured in financial terms. 1 year after the sidewalk cardiac emergency that had brought them together, Noah was teaching CPR certification classes to first-year medical students while continuing his accelerated path toward medical school admission. Emma often waited outside the classroom, watching her father demonstrate the same life-saving techniques that had connected their family to Victoria and changed the course of their lives. Victoria had developed a quiet habit of attending Noah's teaching sessions, sitting at the back of the room, watching how he blended technical knowledge with the kind of patient compassion that came from his own experience as someone who had once needed help at a crucial moment. Although she'd never had children of her own, watching Noah balance fatherhood with his return to academic medicine gave her a new model for how professional success could coexist with meaningful personal relationships. After one particularly successful class, where Noah had helped a struggling student master chest compression techniques, Victoria approached him with a small leather journal she'd been carrying for weeks, waiting for the right moment to present it. "I've been thinking about something," Victoria said, her voice carrying a rare vulnerability that Noah had come to recognize during their year of friendship. "I always wished I had children, someone to carry on not just my business, but my values and my commitment to helping others. Today, watching you teach those students, I realize that I've been privileged to witness what an actual father looks like in action." The journal contained a letter that Victoria had written but never sent. It expressed her gratitude not only for Noah's life-saving intervention, but also for the way his presence in her life had given her a deeper understanding of what constitutes a meaningful legacy. Instead of focusing solely on business achievements and financial contributions, she had begun to value relationships and personal connections that enriched lives in ways that couldn't be measured in dollars. Emma joined them in the empty classroom, carrying her backpack and the homework she had been working on while waiting for her father's class to finish. Over time, the three of them had developed comfortable routines around Noah's academic schedule. Victoria often helped Emma with her advanced mathematics courses, while Emma taught Victoria card games and childhood activities that the wealthy older woman had never learned. "Can we go get pizza?" Emma asked, displaying a casual familiarity with Victoria that suggested she'd stopped being impressed by wealth and had started treating her like a regular member of their family. Victoria said, "She's never been to Tony's, and I told her they have the best garlic bread in the whole city." Their dinner at Tony's Pizza became one of those ordinary family moments that Victoria had spent decades believing she was too busy or too focused on business success to experience. Sitting in a booth with red checkered tablecloths, sharing breadsticks, and listening to Emma explain her science fair project, Victoria realized that the true reward of her investment in Noah's education had been gaining access to authentic relationships she'd never prioritized before. Noah looked around the simple restaurant, watching Victoria help Emma with homework while they waited for their order. He understood that their unconventional family dynamic had given all three of them something they'd been missing. Victoria had found the family connection she'd never made time for. Emma had gained an additional adult who cared about her future, and Noah had reclaimed the career dreams he thought he had lost forever. The final image showed the three of them walking home from dinner in the soft evening light, Emma between the two adults, chattering away about her summer plans, while Noah and Victoria listened with the kind of attention that people give when they understand that ordinary moments are the most precious. None of them mentioned money, business success, or future plans. Instead, they enjoyed the simple pleasure of being together, knowing they genuinely cared for each other's well-being. You never know who is quietly watching your kindness. Just live right, and beautiful things will find their way to you. Subscribe to Viral Story Whispers if you believe.